Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Younger. I'm teaching your astronomy course this summer at College of the Albemarle. I've taught there for about 10 years, but I left there a few years ago to work somewhere else. But I still come back and teach because I actually am a graduate of COA and I'm a big fan of the school. They're a really good school. Anyways, I'm now teaching your online astronomy course in AST 111. And I wanted to introduce myself, tell you about some of the fun things we're going to do, and then go over the syllabus to some extent. I apologize that you're getting this on the second day. I actually made 3 copies yesterday, but I was having Zoom problems, so they weren't saving. I've now hopefully worked that out, so you actually get an actual recording that introduces everything. So this course, in my estimation, is probably the best course we offer at this school, COA, or my other schools that I've worked at. In the sense that if I had to make sure that every teacher had some basic understanding of science, because they might teach it one day in middle school, elementary school, or even high school. I would hands down say this is the one course that I want them to take, because this covers so many different sciences. In astronomy, we obviously cover astronomy, we cover astrophysics, we cover cosmology, and of course, those are all just sort of branches of astronomy, anyways. But in doing astrophysics, you're obviously doing some physics. So we do talk a lot about physics. We do Newton's laws of motion, talk about acceleration, mass, things of that sort. We do gravity. We talk about orbits. But in addition to that, we also talk about basically the chemical changes of our atmosphere in terms of the ozone layer hole that was that's now pretty much repairing pretty well, and global warming, both of which require some understanding of basic chemistry. So we've got some chemistry we're covering there. We talk about geology, so we have to understand plate tectonics and what that's told us about the age of our planet and stuff like that. So we cover geology and many branches of geology, including volcanism and, like I said, tectonics, stuff of that sort. Because really, to understand planets that we're going to study, we're going to start off looking at what our planet has, and then comparing and contrasting. So that's called comparative planetology. That's what we do in astronomy to try to make sense of the planets that we see, whether they be ice planets made of dirty snowballs like Pluto is, or rocky planets like Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are, or gas giants like we see with Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Or even if you talk about some of the moons of those gas planets, you'll find that there's some of those are icy, some of those are rocky, all sorts of cool stuff. So that's why I say basically this is the one course that I'd want every potential teacher to take, because it gives them a little bit of grounding in everything. It teaches them basically the process of science, how science often transpires, as opposed to that wonderful list of things that you go through to do the scientific method. There's really no rhyme or reason with science often, and it goes in all sorts of random fashions. So it's really good in that sense. So this course will be covering all that cool stuff. We'll talk about black holes and neutron stars and brown dwarfs and white dwarfs and galaxies and galaxy collisions, and you'll learn the scale of the universe, the scale of our solar system, all sorts of really interesting things that should probably shock you. I am going to record as many lectures as I can this summer. Of course, it's a fast semester, so it's always kind of hard to do that. But generally speaking, you should be able to, with your textbook alone, go through your textbook, do your homeworks, do your practice tests that I offer. And from that, you should be able to make decent grades on all your practice tests, and therefore eventually your actual tests. The way our class is going, we've still got some quarantine issues going on, so you will be taking several, probably once every 2 chapters, several online tests. Those will be online. I'm usually give you 2 or 3 opportunities to get the highest score possible, and I only grade the highest one, so that's the grade you get. But each time you take them, they're slightly different. I do allow you to use your notes. I allow you to use your textbook. I allow you to use any other books you have. I even allow you to do Google searches. The main reason is I know some people do this whether they're allowed to or not, so why not just release it The downside is that I'm going to only give you somewhere between 30 and 45 seconds per question. So if you have to do much research, you're probably going to run out of time. And if you run out of time, I charge you 10 points per minute that you're over, and I count minutes like they used to count cell phone minutes, where 61 seconds would count as 2 minutes. So you get 20 points off if you go 61 seconds over. So the big thing is, I don't want you to be really fast at looking stuff up unless you only have to look up 1 or 2 for a test. I want you to be really good at learning stuff. And if you actually figure out how to learn stuff, then it's not so much looking up, and doing the practice test is a good way to sort of get an idea of what you're supposed to quote unquote know and have learned. I always try to build narratives to make sense of disparate facts. I recommend that too. So for instance, when we cover let's say Doppler shift. With the Doppler shift, I always tell my students, imagine me standing in the middle of a classroom, dead center in the front of the classroom, and I attach a slinky to my front belt buckle, and at the other end to the wall closest to me, and then the other slinky, which is identical, to my back belt loop, and the other end of that one to the other wall, in other words, the wall closest to my backside. And when I walk towards one wall, what I see is the individual rings in the slinky get closer and closer together. So initially they look like this, but as I'm walking towards a wall, or if that wall came towards me, I'd see the rings get closer and closer. Whereas the ones behind me, the ones I'm going away from, they'd actually stretch out further and further and further. And if you look at the side of a slinky, it sort of looks like this, which looks like a wave. So I picture that narrative in my head, and I realize, oh, when something moves towards me or I move towards it, the light and or sound coming from it, since they are waves, will actually be compressed, just like the slinky was compressed. And when I move away from a source of light, or a source of light moving away from me, the waves will be stretched, just like the slinky did when I walked away from the wall. So that's the kind of ways you should sort of think of things, and then build mnemonics. Mnemonics are wonderful. Like the mnemonic I use to remember which end of the spectrum is short wavelength and long wavelength. Once you have that wonderful narrative of the slinky down, I say blue to you. That's what I just remember. And blue to you means that the blue end of the spectrum is the way light is shifted when something's moving towards you. So that tells you, oh, the blue end of the spectrum must be short wavelength. And the long end, since it goes Roy G. Biv, and blue, indigo, violet is the Biv part. The other end is Roy, so that's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. The red end is the long wavelength end. So red is long wavelength, blue is short wavelength. Now I know why they say the galaxies are redshifted, because they're moving away from us. If something was blue shifted, I know it's coming towards me. That'll also help you, for instance, if you go into the field of ultrasound physics or ultrasound in general. They use Doppler to actually detect whether blood is speeding up or slowing down coming towards you or towards your probe, and so on and so forth. So that's what I recommend you doing. I recommend you learn how to read a science textbook. It's very, very hard. I'm a very slow reader, but that's because I've grown up reading textbooks as opposed to most other books. So I discovered, due to ADD and various other issues, that the best way for me personally to be able to comprehend stuff from reading is I have to read it very, very slowly. And that's kind of weird, because sometimes you'll read a whole chapter in a book, or let's say a whole subsection in a chapter, and that might be 12 paragraphs long. One paragraph has like 8 things that are extremely important, and all the other paragraphs are just stuff to tell you how we know those 8 things in that one paragraph. So it's really hard to know why you're reading it, what's the most important thing. So what you want to keep your mind on when you're going is the objectives for the chapter. Some books actually put the course objectives or the chapter objectives at the beginning. I try to do that in my announcements each week. So you want to try to keep your eye on the ball that way and think, what is it I'm supposed to be learning? And then the other thing is, I don't want this to ever seem, any science for that matter, to ever seem like dogma. It's always going to be you thinking about, well, Mr. Younger gave me fact A, but I don't know how the heck they got that. No, the most important thing is not only that you know fact A, but that you know how we know that, and how much uncertainty there is in it, and maybe even some controversies about how we got there, so on and so forth. So that's sort of my intro to how to best succeed in the class. You'll see I wrote a little write-up of frequently asked questions and how to succeed. They're all in Moodle. Remember, I told you in my syllabus, when you say my courses, as teachers usually say Moodle, M-O-O-D-L-E, because that's the name of the software that we use. So if you see something that says Moodle, just think, oh, he's talking about my courses. So this semester will be fun. Like I said, we'll get to talk about all these cool sciences. We're going to be chemistry and physics and evolutionary biology, historical geology, all sorts of cool stuff. And I wanted to tell you how my course works. Basically, every Monday, and I might even do it the previous Wednesday, but basically, by every Monday of each week, you will get a list of objectives, a list of requirements, and then a list of requirements and basically a list of helpful resources along with the actual assignments. And that's going to tell you what you have to do. And every week that's supposed to be due on the following Sunday. But like I said, sometimes I notice students get a little antsy. Maybe they get done really quick. So I might want to make maybe the next week available a little bit earlier. So I might put it up on a Wednesday of the same week. This week, I'm definitely not doing that. Y'all got enough stuff going on. But I opened up everything on Monday. All this stuff is technically supposed to be due by Sunday. Okay. And if I wanted to, I would take tomorrow and post next week's, but I normally don't do that on the first week, and I'm not doing that in the first week this time, but I do occasionally do it by, say, the 4th or 5th week. So Monday, what you need to do is log in and check what's due, start doing those things, and have them done by Sunday around 11:55 p.m. the following Sunday. So hopefully that helps you understand it. Like I said, we're going to have probably a test per week, or around a test per week, and I'll cover 2 chapters each test. But all my tests are comprehensive, so when you take a test on chapters, say 5 and 6, that actually will be some questions on 1, 2, 3, and 4 as well. Okay, I especially like to go back and hit things that students have problems with. Like if I see someone really couldn't do moon phase stuff in chapters 3 and 4, then in chapter 5 and 6, I probably put a lot of moon phase questions on there to try to get y'all back up to speed. Almost no part of the course is considered extraneous. So basically everything you see in the practice tests and everything you see in the tests and the reading material are pretty much required for you to know. Okay. I once had a really bright guy tell me, I asked him how he did on his quantum mechanics exam. He said, very easy, just memorize book. He wasn't from America, of course. That's why I'm repeating his accent. Very, very smart dude. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't think of that. I didn't memorize the book. So it's not quite that bad. You don't have to do that with astronomy. You don't have to memorize the book. But if you build those narratives, like I told you, you'll be surprised how close you are to memorizing. So let me share my screen real quick, and we'll go over the actual syllabus. So hold on a second, see if I can find the actual screen to share. There it is. I'm going to share the screen. Okay, it clearly went to the wrong screen. That was not the screen I was looking at a second ago. That's not it either. Let me check this other one. There it is. So now I got to new share. It should be. Why is it not showing that screen? That's weird. Let's do that one. Okay, you should be seeing this screen now. Okay, so this is my syllabus. I did update it in 2020, of course. The biggest thing I want you to know from the beginning is the best way to contact me is via email. This phone number, I'm not even allowed to go to that office right now because we're still under quarantine. So you might as well forget about using that, except in the cases where maybe something came up and you couldn't finish your test on time because of some extraneous thing, and you really wanted me to know what time you called, what date you called, and that sort of stuff. A good thing would be to leave the message on there. Now, that being said, the way this semester works, you shouldn't ever, ever, ever have a problem missing a test because it's going to be usually something where it like opens on a Thursday and you have till Monday to do it. So that shouldn't ever come up. But if that were the case, maybe I'll work with you, but usually I won't. So don't wait till the last day to do your tests because just that problem could result in you failing the course or getting a 0 on a test or something. So generally speaking, it's not useful to call me. The best thing is to email me at William_Younger, Younger, numbers 91 albemarle.edu. And two things you got to know. One, you got to email me from your COA account. If I get an email, then it's not from the COA account, it's from like Yahoo or something, I'm probably never going to see it. Two, you also have to start your subject line with AST space 111. If you don't start it with that, I will probably never see the email. So make sure you do that. Here's a description of what things we cover in the course. Here's the rationale. Here's the outcomes that you're expected to get from taking this course. Those are sort of the pedagogic things. You can actually look through these and see, oh, what actual aspects of chapter 1 are in this guy or this guy or this guy. And that is really where your objectives are coming from. So definitely read those over, at least review them when you start a new chapter and see which ones might come up in the actual course. The instructor can expect the student to know and abide by all policies in the course syllabus, participate fully in all class assignments and activities, prepare for assignments by doing the appropriate reading and preparatory work, complete all assignments and complete assignments on time, respect the rights of others. In other words, don't be rude and mean and stuff like that on discussion forums. Log into my courses /Moodle every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday. So that's sort of what I'm keeping your attendance with. And I've made it those days on purpose because Sunday is the deadline day. So if you log in on Sunday, at least you'll see, oh, wow, I got this stuff due Sunday. Monday's the day I release the stuff. So if I put it on Tuesday, that just gives you several days to know how long you got to do it. If I said not again until Friday, that might not be enough time for you to get everything done. And then finally, I get you to look at it on Friday as well. That'll allow you to catch, in case I put it up, the new material up for the next week on Wednesday, you'll have had a chance to see it. So you are expected to log into Moodle every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday. Missing any one of those days will count as an absence. You're also supposed to check your COA email Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday. You can expect, or I should be able to expect you to reply to me within 2 school days. So if I send you an email on Friday, that does not mean that you have to reply to me by Sunday. That means you have to reply to me by Tuesday, because that's 2 school days after Friday. And basically, anytime Friday, I count as Friday, like midnight, and then anytime on Tuesday would be acceptable. So it's slightly more than 24 or 48 hours, even 48 school hours. But anyways, similarly, you can expect me to do the same. So if you email me on Friday, you're not necessarily going to get a response on Friday. You're almost certainly not going to get one on Friday. You probably won't get one on Saturday. You might not get one on Sunday, but you definitely will get one by Tuesday. Okay. So the students can expect the instructor to prepare and distribute the course syllabus, done, evaluate students' progress, and give prompt feedback. Basically, your grade book will always have your grades, so you can keep track of that and see it. Maintain a safe learning environment. As long as you're home, I guess you're safe. Demonstrate concern for student reaction. Obviously, if you contact me and you're having some problems, I'm going to do my best to help you. How students knew what is required each week. Every Monday or the preceding Wednesday, a list of weekly requirements will appear in the Moodle week area. So there will be a module and it'll say week 1, like it does now. They can include labs, outdoor exercises, indoor exercises, making things, doing sapling learning, videos, essays, worksheets, so on and so forth. These are your prerequisites, co-requisites, all that good stuff. The textbook we're using is an OpenStax book. So you can just click on that link and that'll take you right to the book. If you want a printed copy, you can actually, the student store will make that happen for you. You don't have to have one for me, but you might, some people don't like reading online, and I understand that. There's also an app you can download that allow you to read it on your phones, and that's probably more convenient than actually reading it over the internet. But either way, those are all available for you. You must have a subscription to Sapling Learning. That's where our homework's coming from, and I choose the homeworks out of sets that are in there. I sort of read the textbook and try to find the ones that match the kind of stuff we talked about. Big thing with astronomy and science class in general at a college level, your ability to do homework is not dependent on your ability to find answers in the book. In fact, the way astronomy and other sciences work is maybe the book gives you 3 facts and tells you how to take 2 of those facts and make a conclusion. And then they expect you to maybe take all 3 of those facts and make another conclusion that they never gave you. So that's completely fair and completely reasonable. You guys got to watch out for that. It's not like you can just automatically look in the book and find the answer. Now you're going to have to use the reasoning, use the logic, use the tricks that they actually implemented in discussing things in the textbook to make sense of it. This class isn't mathematical, by the way. It's we are going to require you to have a scientific calculator, but you don't have to do algebra. Let's put it that way. You will occasionally have to do division or subtraction or multiplication or addition or something like that. But generally speaking, even if you had something that would, like an equation of velocity equals frequency times wavelength, in principle, you might want to need to know algebra to do that. But I even give you ways to do that without using algebra. So I've worked really hard to make this course non-mathematical. Attendance policies. This is a 16-week course. I made a boo-boo. I've got to correct this. So you'll see an updated syllabus later, and it'll have the date on the end. And the one with the latest date is always the most accurate one. But basically, you're allowed 10 absences for 16 weeks. So I'm thinking maybe you should probably be allowed 7 for a 10-week at most. So don't do that. Main thing is just don't. Okay, just don't miss. Don't forget to log in on those 3 days, and that's really not that hard. Also, if you email me, remember to use the subject line I told you about. Not too much other stuff in here. I'll let you read this on your own time or whatever. You can withdraw by July 9th, and no harm to your grade will happen. I don't ever recommend students to withdraw. I always give you a way to pass, even if you've done really horribly going into the final. There's almost always a way to still pass or to still get a B or something like that. So I hardly ever recommend students drop. But if you do, that's it. If you're starting to feel like it, if you feel scared, if you think, oh man, this is so mathematical, I don't know what to do, then send me an email, and I'll probably either call you or set up a meeting and a Zoom meeting or something, and we'll talk about it. This is a class where students get a lot of good grades, even though they're challenged and find the course hard. They always like it and say it's a good course. So your grades are going to be assigned this way. I call it Astro Assigned. So basically all your sapling learning assignments and any other assignments, which might be labs and stuff like that, I'm just going to take the 2 lowest of all those and then average everything else, counting each one equally. And that's going to be 30% of your course grade. The timed online tests, they're going to be 40% of your grade, and I will drop the lowest on that one. And now, if the quarantine situation allows it, I'm going to ask everyone to take a face-to-face proctored comprehensive final exam. Okay. If you live near one of our COA campuses, then you can take it at their testing facility for free. If, however, you're taking this internet class somewhere else where you can't conveniently get here, then you will need to find someone to proctor your test. Often local colleges, even high schools occasionally have a policy where they'll do it. And there's different groups, companies and things that offer proctoring exams. I would start looking now, if you're not planning on being able to come to Elizabeth City or Manio or Chowan, to take it at one of our testing centers. Okay. Don't forget your homeworks are always due by roughly 11:59 Sunday night. So always check that. Practice test, you only have 10 questions, 7 minutes will be allowed. So I didn't put it in here yet, so I will definitely put it later. But generally speaking, I basically give you half a point on your final exam. Remember this comprehensive final exam? That's sort of the Widowmaker. That's the one where you don't get your textbook there. All you have is a scientific calculator, maybe some scratch paper, but it's got to be blank. No book, no internet, no nothing. Okay, so that could be a hardcore test, and it's worth 30% of your grade. So even if you had 100 and you take a 0 on the final, you're going to get a 70 for the class. So even going into the final with 100, you can drop down to a 70 by getting 0. Now, nobody's going to make a 0 on the final, but making a 50 would still bring it down to an 85. So in an attempt to make sure you guys don't panic over that, what I do is I'll give you practice tests. And every time you score an 80 or better on that practice test, well, I say every time you score an 80 or better on a particular practice test, I will grant you half a point on your final exam grade. So that gives you basically up to 7 points on your final exam grade just by doing that. You just have to email me, tell me exactly which practice test you took, what score you got on it, and do that each time you do it, and then I will add them to the grade book. Okay. When you do take the test, do not exceed the time limits. As I say, I take 10 points off, and I do count minutes, like I told you earlier, like they used to count cell phone minutes. So 60 seconds would mean 1 minute, and you'd lose 10 points, but 61 seconds would mean 2 minutes, and you'd lose 20 points. Also, 120 seconds would still mean 20 points, but 121 would be 30 points off. So don't do that, okay? The final exam will be allowed to be taken on that last week of classes, but it definitely has to be done by 11 a.m. on Monday, July 27th. I believe that's a Monday, but the 27th is definitely going to hold. The final weighted average will basically be using a 10-point scale, but you'll notice I did a little helpfulness down here. It's normally 69 is the line for instance of C, 69.5 and 59.5 for a D. I actually make it 58.5 and 68.5 just to give you a little help in case you just come up a little short because you know had to take an internet class you didn't want to take or something like that. So anyways, hopefully that'll help you. That's basically the syllabus. These are the topics we'll cover. Again, these are all tentative. We might not be able to get through all that stuff, but that's the goal, is to hit all these things. So I hope you will enjoy this class. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I will be posting other videos, and each time I post a video or anything, I'll let you know that it's been posted. I'll send you an email. So if you keep track of your emails, you'll probably find that out. Again, I apologize for not doing this or getting this done for you yesterday, but it's here now. So good luck, everybody. I'll enjoy having you, and can't wait to get to know you over the semester. Bye-bye.